There's a video I've been dying to make for a long time, but I just never really had the time to sit down and work on it. But seeing as the year is coming to an end, I thought it would make sense to put a little bit of extra effort in to get it out. So today we're going to be talking about the philosophy behind Inuyasha. If you enjoy this video, or if you're just looking forward to the next year of content on this channel, please leave a like on this video, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss anything coming out. With that all being said, let's get into it. Inuyasha is so many things, and while on the surface it might have these heavy motifs of romance and friendship, there tends to be a darker theme behind them. However, the true philosophy of Inuyasha is actually something more disparaging than many might suggest. The meaning of Inuyasha is not so much about friendship or overcoming odds. Instead, it can be found in the trail of wishes made by the characters throughout the series. But to fully understand what I mean, we need to discuss a few characters. The ones I'll be looking at in this video will be the man who loved Midoriko, Onigumo, Inuyasha, and Kikyo. So, let's start with the man who loved Midoriko, a fitting place as this is also the point at which the crux of the entire series can be found, the origin of the Shikon Jewel. For those who don't remember, Midoriko was known as one of the strongest priestesses in all of history. However, a greedy, terrible man fell in love with her and would essentially sell his soul to a horde of demons for the opportunity to be with her. These demons would overpower the man and use their new chimeric body to attack Midoriko, pushing her to her absolute limit, with the battle lasting 7 days and nights until the demons finally got the priestess within its jaws. With one last attempt at defeating the demon, the priestess pulled the demon's spirit within herself and fused it with her own, producing the Shikon Jewel in the process. The bandit Onigumo faced a similar fate. After sending Rasetsu and his men on what was essentially a suicide mission to attack Kikyo and steal the jewel, of course not warning him about her half-demon protector Inuyasha, most of Rasetsu's men were wiped out, and to take revenge, he set fire to the inn that Onigumo was staying at before throwing him off a cliff to try and kill him. However, Onigumo would survive, albeit crippled and unable to move, and then he was found by the priestess Kikyo, who nursed him back to the point where he could at least speak again. Even through all of the kindness he was shown, Onigumo remained a truly evil and greedy man, even telling Kaede that he wanted to see Kikyo suffer and in despair. However, despite all of this, as time moved on and she continued to care for the man, he fell in love with her. However, his body was useless. He wanted the jewel and he wanted Kikyo, but as it was, he could never be with either of them. So in a play of what must have been desperation or greed, the bandit made a deal with demons to become the host of a massive horde. The demons fused with the man, renewing his body as they formed Naraku. Unlike the man who loved Midoriko, Onigumo's soul was not devoured in this process, but the demons were still too powerful and took control of his body, attacking Kikyo to try and corrupt the jewel and ensure Onigumo could never resist them. This one might be the most important, so we'll come back to it later, but for now, on to Inuyasha. Inuyasha was a half-demon who lived between two worlds, not accepted by demons and feared by humanity. The only kindness he ever knew was from his mother, but unfortunately she died when he was still very young. A lone, half-demon child, Inuyasha was forced into survival mode. Hostile yokai would be immensely dangerous to him, and it wasn't as if he could take refuge with the humans. He lived his life as an outsider, and as a result, he desired to take the Shikon Jewel and become a full demon. With this, he might be powerful enough to hold his own, and he would never have to rely on anyone. However, this wish slightly changed when we come to our next topic of Kikyo. Kikyo was a priestess who showed amazing talent and promise even as a child. One day, a troop of demon slayers approached her with the Shikon Jewel, and as she was the only one who could purify it, she was made into its new protector, a role which quickly became her new prison. She would never be allowed to show any signs of weakness for fear of being taken advantage of by someone who wanted the jewel. She would never be allowed to enjoy a normal life as a young woman. As I mentioned, Inuyasha was looking for the jewel, and as such, they would eventually cross paths. And despite her vow to never show weakness, they ended up falling in love with each other. She would convince him that rather than becoming a full demon, they could instead make a wish for him to become human and to live together as normal people. However, this would also be the point in which Naraku was born. He would disguise himself as Inuyasha and mortally wound Kikyo before they could make their wish. With her last moments of life, she would pin Inuyasha to the Tree of Ages and ask Kaede to cremate her body with the jewel. Here, she made 3 different wishes than what was planned. She wished that she could take the jewel with her to the afterlife, removing it from the mortal world. She also wished that she could live a normal woman's life. And finally, she wished to meet Inuyasha one more time. So we have all of these wishes being made throughout the series, but what do they mean? Well, the series essentially offers the message to be careful what you wish for, and that wishes can be a dangerous thing. Let's look at how these wishes played out. And I realize these weren't all made on the jewel, but I'm talking about wishes in a general sense in the series. Starting with the man who loved Midoriko, who wished to be with her. And this, in a sense, was a wish that was granted. The amalgamation of demons that he became would take control and attack her, but when Midoriko created the Shikon jewel, it meant that her own spirit, along with the man and the demons, would all be trapped in the jewel together for eternity, spending the next 500 years together in that prison of a battlefield. Inuyasha wished that he could become a full demon. However, as the story progressed, he had moments where he could experience becoming a full demon several times, and he hated it. I'll never forget the moment where Inuyasha's in the river trying to wash the blood off his hands and having a psychological breakdown. Not to mention the fear that he had that he might hurt the ones he cares about. The idea of being a demon is great when you're alone, but once you belong somewhere, it's just dangerous to your loved ones. Kikyo wished for the jewel to follow her into the afterlife, to see Inuyasha again, and to be an ordinary girl, and all of these were combined into Kagome. 500 years after her death, she would be reincarnated and the jewel would follow her back into the world of the living. Her powers were sealed by Magatsuhi, making her essentially an ordinary woman, and her spirit would come back to Inuyasha as Kagome traveled to the past. However, Kikyo would end up being revived, meaning her own wish placed her in a situation where she would have to watch Inuyasha fall in love with another girl. She would have to see Kagome living the life that she always wanted. And then we have Onigumo. The bandit wished for a few things. A renewed body, to have the jewel, and to be with Kikyo. He did get his renewed body when Naraku was formed. He could move around, he was strong, no longer on death's door. However, the demons within his new body would take control and ultimately attack and kill Kikyo, leaving this part of his wish unfulfilled, and leaving him as a prisoner within Naraku's psyche. He, and the demons as well, also wished for the Shikon jewel, and though they did attain it eventually, Naraku would be defeated almost immediately after using its power. 50 years of waiting and scheming for a moment of power that was taken from him with nothing gained. Finally, he wished to be with Kikyo. This wish is often confused in the end, with Naraku's wish to have himself and Kagome replacing the demon of the jewel and Midoriko. However, that still wouldn't really allow Onigumo to be with Kikyo. The idea that they bring up in the series is that his wish was never attained, and at the time that they confront him about this, that is certainly true. However, as the jewel fades away, and Onigumo's soul moves on from this world to the next, his soul is brought back to the afterlife, just as Kikyo's was. I'm not saying that they ended up together or anything in the underworld, nothing like that, but I am saying that in death, he is closer to Kikyo than he ever was as Naraku. One of my favorite philosophies to be presented in any series is that you have to accept life, work with reality, and be cautious about wishes. It's okay to want something, but don't sacrifice and set your soul on the impossible. If you know a bit of English literature, you might have seen a similar story with the monkey paw, or in Middle Eastern stories you might hear about genies, both of which often function in a way which backfires on the one making a wish. If you want to keep this idea with anime though, we could also look to the philosophy presented in Fullmetal Alchemist. When people break the law of human transmutation, God, or the truth, appears before them and gives them an ironic punishment to fit their crime. A motif that I enjoyed so much that my first tattoo was actually truth. In the same way, Inuyasha presents the idea of fate tying souls together. We see the red string of fate that connects the spirits of Kikyo and Inuyasha, and in essence of Inuyasha and Kagome as well. With the theme of fate being such a prevalent force behind the series, it's only natural that those who wish to escape fate, to forge a path where there shouldn't be one, would lose everything for their greed. Just as the jewel becomes corrupted by selfish wishes, so too do the lives of those who make those wishes. And that's why the grand solution to the series was a wish for the end of the Shikon jewel. Or to put it another way, a wish for the end of wishes. With that said though, if you enjoyed this video, remember to leave a like and subscribe to the channel so that you can see more content when it comes out. I want to wish you all a happy new year, and I hope that for each of you, next year is better than the last one. And finally, as always, a big thank you to our patrons for supporting the channel, with our Dai Yokai Miasma and Ikerochu, our Yokai Lucifina Akuma, and our Hanyo Jasmine Morales, Michael Grayco, Nega Kitty, Simon Electric, Anthony Hogan, Brunette Thrasher, and Randy Moseyman. With all that being said though, thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, remember to stay excellent.